So we'll continue our Operation Encore Edit readings. And in this regard, it's regarding Adel al-Sadhan and Adel I forgot the other guy's name. Actually, it's Mutaib al-Sudairy and their connection with Saudi government operatives inside the United States, like Fahad al-Damari and Omar al-Bayoumi, who provided financial and logistical assistance to two known al-Qaeda operatives that were later involved with the hijacking of American Airlines Flight 77 that crashed into the Pentagon, Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. So what I'm going to do is basically make myself disappear so we could read this together, okay? According to I-94, all right, let me go back a little bit, right? Here we are. According to I-94 information, Adel al-Sadhan, believed to be identified with Adel al-Sadhan, entered Los Angeles on December 15, 1998. This is redaction. By the way, these are coming from the FBI's follow-up investigation of PENTTBOM called Operation Encore. And it's a lot of this stuff I'm reading to you is really not known to the public because the media isn't doing their job. And the 9/11 Truth Movement isn't doing their job either of informing you about these issues because they don't believe Arabs were involved with the hijacking of planes because they don't believe planes were hijacked that day. Now, that's another story. Well, anyway, this information shows that the CIA and Saudi intelligence were running an illegal operation in California involving the monitor of two known al-Qaeda subjects in which the CIA lied about. His intended address was the Hilton Hotel, Los Angeles, and he listed a contact telephone number on his I-94 that was subscribed to Fahad al-Damari, the imam at the King Fahd Mosque in Culver City. The purpose for al-Sadhan's visit in 1998 is unknown, though it establishes the first known contact between al-Sadhan and al-Damari. Investigators believe his visit was to begin preparations for al-Damari's subsequent assistance to Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar. Al-Sadhan departed Los Angeles on January 20th, 1999, but he would only come back. Now, al-Sadhan and Mutaib al-Sudairy, they would not have direct contacts with Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. In fact, they were there on behalf of their superior, Musaed al-Jarrah, who is head of the Islamic Affairs Department in Washington, D.C. Al-Sadhan returned to the United States on June 13, 1999, this time accompanied by an associate, Mutaib al-Sudairy. Both men entered via Washington, D.C. on the same flight. And you can see this is a long redaction right here. Musaed al-Jarrah was then the director of the Islamic Affairs Department of the Saudi Arabian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Now, this is through the FBI's investigation of Musaed al-Jarrah, who is heavily redacted in this report. His connections are very nefarious, involving Islamic extremists like bin Laden and al-Qaeda. So what is he doing? As director of the Islamic Affairs Department of the Saudi Arabian Embassy in Washington, D.C. Right? Al-Jarrah's official responsibilities were to manage and control all assignments of Saudi imams in the United States and facilitate the issuance of their diplomatic visas. Now, what's coming up next is really mind-blowing. Al-Jarrah may have determined al-Damari's assignment, giving him the job as an imam at King Fahd Mosque, placing him in Southern California at the King Fahd Mosque during this time. He had a reputation for being a Salafi fanatic and as a possible source of motivation for violent or terrorist activity. Now, Musaed al-Jarrah is recruiting this fanatic, Fahad al-Damari, to preach extremist views against the United States. Meanwhile, Musaed al-Jarrah is an employee in the federal government. What the fuck is going on here? Redaction. In 1992 and 1994, he was tasked by Osama bin Laden. This is Musaed al-Jarrah we're talking about, to get a list of all Saudi embassy employees in the United States. Because bin Laden went to get extremists inside the United States. Now, remember, now this is me speculating. Take this with a grain of salt. If the original plan was 19 hijackers on 4 planes, and what is bin Laden doing to recruit new people inside the United States for more operations? Sure. Or for additional hijackings, which isn't erroneous to say, because we had a potential hijacking in United Airlines Flight 23 that was covered by, of all people, TMZ. Remember that one? And there were very few, Florida Bulldog and others. Very few smaller venues covered this story. But that would make sense. If bin Laden needed extra additional muscle hijackers for these other hijackings, that may have been taking place. That's the reason why he's trying to recruit. But, I'm speculating there. I have no evidence for it. Blank, the reason for this was to find and recruit the sympathizer within the Saudi embassy. And he did. He got Musaed al-Jarrah bin Laden. Blank, he went to a local library and photocopied a list of embassy employees from a book in the reference section and hand-delivered the list to Osama bin Laden, UBL. Musaed al-Jarrah began working at the Saudi embassy in 1991. During the time frame of blank tasking from Osama bin Laden, al-Jarrah would have been on the photocopied list. And he was. After their time in San Diego in 1999, al-Sudairy subsequently moved to Columbus, Missouri, and al-Sadhan moved to Lawrence, Kansas. While in Missouri, al-Sudairy lived with Ziad Khalil. Now, Ziad Khalil, for those who don't know, Ziad Khalil was a representative from the United Kingdom in which al-Qaeda had an office, so bin Laden had an office there. And that would be the office where bin Laden's declarations would be read to the rest of the world, unless bin Laden was making a video. But if he was making an audio or he was just dictating through the pen, it would go to Ziad Khalil in the United Kingdom, and that's how the word would be spread. Ziad Khalil, by the way, would be also the person to contact inside the United States while bin Laden was in the Sudan and later on in Afghanistan, of getting him satellite phones, in which the FBI were running a separate operation involving Hamas. They were monitoring Ziad Khalil and knew that, hey, this guy's buying satellite phones. And they asked the NSA to see if they can monitor that phone. They found out that phone was decrypted. In other words, any calls could be heard by the NSA if they intercepted them. And Michael Scheuer, the former chief of the bin Laden issue station, codename Alex Station, even said as much, that the NSA was the gold mine in regards to bin Laden and al-Qaeda in the world. They had the most data, but they never shared it with anybody. It's like the CIA didn't share their information with everybody. But that's who Ziad Khalil was. Ziad Khalil was known key communications equipment procurement officer for Osama bin Laden and provided satellite phones used in the 1998 U.S. embassy bombings in Africa. Following al-Sudairy's return to Saudi Arabia in 2001, he met with Khalil twice. Now, remember, when Khalil was giving satellite phones to bin Laden in the Sudan and then later in Afghanistan, the NSA were intercepting these calls and they intercepted these numbers, and that's how they got the house number for the al-Qaeda communications hub in Yemen, owned by Ahmed al-Hada. Okay? And, this is 6 years prior to 9/11, by the way, 1996. And these calls that were intercepted were even prior to 96. It was started in 1992, 93. What do you think they were talking about on these phone calls? What do you think the NSA had? Or did they even realize what they had because they had so much information they couldn't go through it all? I think they went through some, especially when you're dealing with a high value target in Osama bin Laden. In April 2001, both al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy were terminated from their responsibilities at the Islamic Affairs Department in Saudi Arabian Embassy in Washington, D.C. The two men at this point were living in Washington, D.C. At the same time, two of the hijackers, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Hani Hanjour, arrived in Falls Church, Virginia, and attended the mosque of Anwar al-Awlaki, who was assassinated by President Obama, who later on also assassinated his son, Abdul Rahman al-Awlaki. Al-Sudairy and al-Sadhan both left the United States on October 25, 2001. While in Missouri, al-Sudairy attended the University of Missouri, Columbia's intensive English program. In October of 2001, faculty members alerted the FBI as they'd been suspicious of him since he didn't appear interested in learning English. His peers believed he was a Saudi Arabian intelligence officer, just like the people living in San Diego, and even Nawaf al-Hazmi, the hijacker, said, I think Omar al-Bayomi's a spy. Don't trust him. It's almost like these guys were just making themselves obvious because they're not used to being spies, I guess. I mean, if you're walking around and not doing what you're supposed to do to hide the fact that you're collecting information, you're going to stand out. Because what do spies do? They take pictures, they ask questions, they monitor or surveil a target, usually with a car or on foot. On foot makes them even more obvious. Al-Sadhan was previously the subject of blank. As you can see, there's a huge redaction. This investigation was opened based on blank, that al-Sadhan's worked under blank. Musaed al-Jarrah, the Islamic Affairs section of the Royal Embassy of Saudi Arabia in Washington, D.C., helping al-Jarrah coordinate, direct all Saudi imams assigned to and or financially supported by the Saudi government in the United States. So you have radical fundamentalist clerics like Fahad al-Tamari hired by a federal employee who basically was in charge of hiring all imams in the United States. Meanwhile, Musaed al-Jarrah had connections with Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda. So in other words, here was one operation involving, hey, we're going to radicalize the Muslim youth to ramp up terrorist attacks. And then you have Israel basically monitoring on the East Coast members of the Hamburg cell and members of the 9/11 operators and the FBI, the Secret Service, and immigrations and Southwest Laboratories, and they're collecting information. The NSA is listening to the phone calls of bin Laden and al-Qaeda in Yemen, in the United States. Then you have the CIA running their own operation alongside with Saudi intelligence in monitoring Khalid al-Mihdhar, Nawaf al-Hazmi, and Hani Hanjour. And then you have the FBI, who are conducting their investigation out of New York and Phoenix, Arizona, and Oklahoma about radical fundamentalists trying to learn how to fly planes. So you have all this information, and tons of it, right? Now just imagine the information that's classified or even destroyed, or that wasn't shared with anybody, including Israel and Saudi Arabia, because what did they have? Well, we'll never know if they had anything at all because we deported all these people. And the NSA and the CIA and the FBI didn't share everything. That's why we know so little about 9/11. That's why in the next couple of years, it's going to be damning. And this is part of it, Operation Encore. Al-Sadhan repeatedly helped al-Jarrah support extremist Sunnis in the United States. Al-Sadhan blank was a believer in a radical form of Sunni Salafism and reportedly traveled frequently within the United States. However, because record checks indicated that al-Sadhan left the United States on October 25, 2001 and had not returned, the FBI closed its case in 2004. And as you can see here, FBI headquarters notifies Legat that veto authority has been granted to disseminate the enclosed information, approved tear line to appropriate authorities. The following individuals are subjects of the pending FBI counterterrorism investigation. Adel Muhammad al-Sadhan, born in 1973 in Saudi Arabia. Mutaib al-Sudairy, born in 1971, Saudi Arabia. Blank. This is Musaed al-Jarrah. His name is redacted all throughout the Operation Encore files. for the exception of his last name. But it's incidentally, here's his full name, Musaed al-Jarrah. The person who is involved with redacting information either missed redacting his full name or his first name on purpose, or just missed it. But when the story broke that it was a federal employee who was head of the Islamic affairs for Saudi Arabia in Washington, D.C., was Musaed al-Jarrah, the dam broke loose, so to speak, almost. Because now we have information that the Saudi government was indeed involved at some level with providing financial and logistical support to Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, who were involved with 9/11. The Saudi government continues to deny this. Information uncovered throughout phone analysis, financial analysis, and numerous interviews suggest the aforementioned subjects assisted the hijackers wittingly or unwittingly in a support logistics role while they were inside the United States. The FBI came up with this. FBI investigation conducted through Operation Encore uncovered 2 additional individuals, Adel al-Sadhan and Mutaib al-Sudairy, with a past connection to the subjects of Operation Encore. Along with telephone and financial analysis, indicates al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy may have assisted in laying the groundwork for the arrival of al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar in Southern California, and served as an advance team to vet those who would later assist both hijackers. In Washington, D.C., and had direct contact with Operation Encore subjects, Fahad al-Tamari and Omar al-Bayoumi, who assisted 2 9/11 hijackers, Nawaf al-Hazmi and Khalid al-Mihdhar, with living, financial, and travel arrangements while they were in Southern California in early 2000. Although al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy never had direct contact with the 9/11 hijackers, al-Sadhan likely met with Fahad al-Tamari in person in 1998, approximately 1 year before the hijackers arrived in the United States, and both al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy met with al-Bayoumi in 1999, who assisted them during their 6-week stay in San Diego, approximately 6 months before the arrival of al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar. This contact, paired with analysis of call records and travel patterns during this time the 2 hijackers were in Southern California, indicates that al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy may have served as an advanced team who helped to arrange people to assist al-Hazmi and al-Mihdhar during their time in Southern California. And this is the end right here. FBI investigation conducted through Operation Encore uncovered 2 additional individuals, al-Sadhan and al-Sudairy, with a past connection to the subjects of Operation Encore, involving both Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi. So the FBI has concluded that emissaries of Musaed al-Jarrah, hired by him, were there to coordinate with the people that were assisting Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, people like Fahad al-Tamari, Omar al-Bayoumi, Osama Basnan, who provided financial and logistical support to both men. Now, at the same time, you had another financial connection, this time coming from the wife of the former Saudi U.S. ambassador to the United States in Bandar bin Sultan. His wife, Haifa bin Faisal, was giving $3,000 to $5,000 checks every month to a woman named Mawida Dawijak, who is the wife of Osama Basnan. Osama Basnan would receive that money and give it to Omar al-Bayoumi, and both men would give the money to Khalid al-Mihdhar and Nawaf al-Hazmi, thus beginning the connection of Saudi government operatives inside the United States to 2 of the 9/11 hijackers. Okay, guys, that's the end of this video. Thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll keep posting up to Rumble before I get my YouTube channel. If I don't ever get the YouTube channel, I'm currently uploading all my stuff to Rumble currently. So have a good night, everybody. Have a good weekend, rest of your weekend, and I'll see you in the next video.